Let me just first of all and foremost thank the Ojeda family for coming to Albany to advocate on behalf of this piece of legislation. Before I move a little bit to explain the bill, I would like to recognize some of the people that are with me here at the podium, as well as I'm going to mention them in the order that they are going to speak at the same time. My name is Assemblyman Felix Ortiz. I represent the 51st Assembly District, and I am the prime sponsor of the Briana's Law. The Briana's Law bill, Assembly Bill 1554, is right now in the Rules Committee. To my right is the Senator sponsor, also from Brooklyn, Senator Eric Adams, whose bill is Senate 3974. And also with us we have the parents of Briana Ojeda, Michael, and Carmen, who are going to be speaking very soon to us about why they are here, why the bill is important. And in the middle is their attorney, who has been representing them from day one, Benita Silman. And also we have Dr. Alfonso Mendez, who will be speaking about why this bill is important and why the police department need to be trained on CPR. And also we have Bob Elling from the American Heart Association, and we have Damon Jones from the Blacks in Law Enforcement of America, who also will be speaking here today. Let me just say that the day of August 2010, when this tragedy happened, unfortunately, a police officer denied to provide CPR to this young 11-year-old girl. Her mother happened to reach out and driving toward the hospital, and the police officer stopped her, and she will get into a little more detail. Hopefully she doesn't get too much emotional. That way that you know why we are here and why it's important to have the pass of this legislation. That we will require is very simple. It will require for police officers to be trained on CPR. It's just so simple. Yesterday I took like probably half an hour training quickly on CPR. And it's interesting because I was walking to the Capitol and I'm seeing the Heart Association giving training and bringing awareness about CPR. And I paused for a moment, and I quickly went back to what happened in my district with Briana Ojeda. And I said to myself, if that police officer at least has taken the time to respond accordingly, probably Briana will be here with us today and we will not be doing this piece of legislation. And like I said, this bill is a very simple piece of legislation that I hope that we will be able to bring into light in this session. This is 2 years later since we had introduced this piece of legislation. And since we have introduced this bill, another, and probably the attorney Benita Silman will speak about it, another 2 or 3 incidents took place where a police officer also was not ready to provide CPR. So the issue here is how many other lives do we might have to lose as a result of having police officer untrained on CPR. And when we have the opportunity to make a difference, when the Ojeda family is continue to put pressure to the legislators and to put pressure to make sure this bill can come alive, this is not going to bring Briana back, but I will tell you this much. It's in their heart and it's their objective to save life. And this is what this bill will do. What this bill will do is to prevent things from happening, having our law enforcement ready for duty. And number three, probably and eventually the outcome of this bill is to save life. So simple. And sometimes we don't know why we here need to take 20 years to get a bill done. And sometimes I don't know where the priorities are when common sense is so simple but doesn't work and doesn't go through the places that we love here in the Capitol to fight on behalf of the people that sent us here and we represent. With that, I would like to bring Senator Adams to say a few words, and after that we will bring the parents of Briana Ojeda, Michael and Carmen, and Bonita Sommer.
Thank you. Thank you. First, I want to thank my colleague for being a primary sponsor of this bill and being responsive to the needs of not only his constituents but those throughout the entire state. And my heart goes out to both Carmen and Michael, for being strong enough. Only parents can change pain into purpose. And instead of relegating their lives to wallow in despair and mourn, they are moving across the state and resonating a loud voice that every child, every adult, every individual who calls 911 should know the responding officers can breathe life into the person who's in need of care. How ironic it is that on the side of every vehicle in New York City, there are the letters CPR. Yet the men and women who ride in those vehicles don't know how to perform CPR. How ironic it is that every year we send our police officers to the range to learn how to shoot a gun to take a life, but we don't train them annually how to do CPR to save a life. We are better than this. And there's no reason that we should have to legislate a common task of merely telling our officers when they go to in-service training to learn how to discharge a revolver, to learn the new laws of the day, that they can't allocate a few moments to refresh themselves on how important it is to perform CPR. For a mother in her frightening state to see her daughter take her last breath and have a sense that the cavalry is in a blue and white vehicle simply for the cavalry that's supposed to come to her rescue to state, I cannot help you. That can't happen in New York City. And there's no reason that young Briana is not celebrating starting the 8th grade in September. There's no reason her mother and father have to go through taking the trek down Highway 87 to Albany to pressure us to pass a bill. There's no reason we don't have this child with us today. And so it's unacceptable if we don't push this legislation through on a fast track to make sure that every police officer, after that primary training that takes place when he first comes through the police academy, that every time he goes for his in-service training, he receives the refresher course to do something as simple as CPR. A simple task can save a life. So the police commissioner and mayor, shame on you. Shame on you for not understanding and feeling the pains of a parent. Shame on you for not understanding that as soon as we put this in practice, we will start immediately to training our officers how to save a life. That's what this is about. And so I'm encouraging those who took the trek to Albany that government moves slow, but the desires and passions of those who are impacted can force government to move at an expedient fashion that we can save a life. CPR saves a life. It's not merely letters that are painted on the side of a vehicle. It's an action that can bring life back into a child. We should not have another Briana in the state of New York without a law like this on the book. And I thank Phyllis Ortiz, the Assemblyman, for understanding how important this is. And I'm proud to carry the bill in the state Senate. We must get this bill passed this year. We must not leave this legislative session with our children and our family members vulnerable to the lack of training that police officers should have just to breathe life in people who call for help. We can't live in a state where we can shoot a gun every year but can't learn how to do CPR every year. That can't happen. Thank you.
That's right. Yeah.
We're here strong with people that have traveled a long way to fight for Briana's law, with people in the Michael and Carmen Ojeda family who are all here to support this law and have been fighting for your lives and the lives of your children because they can't get their daughter back. But for 2 years since we wrote the bill, Briana's law, my client standing here with me, Carmen and Michael Ojeda, have been fighting for you and for your children because nobody knew until this great tragedy that can't be reversed. Nobody in the greatest city in our country knew that the New York City Police Department does not train their police officers to save a life, to know CPR and first aid. Since their police academy days, they are never retrained, their certification runs out, and they are never recertified. And the training from the American Heart Association has changed CPR over the years. You no longer have to do mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. There can be no excuse for the NYPD not to be trained. Now it's 100 compressions per minute, 100 chest compressions. That's all he had to do. And we would have dear little 11-year-old Briana here to celebrate her birthday next month. It was back on August 27, 2010, that Briana's mother, Carmen, standing here with me, barely able to stand on this day for the loss that she suffered. It was back that day her daughter had an asthma attack. She was frantically driving blocks to the hospital when this officer, Alfonso Mendez, in a uniform and with a marked radio motor patrol car, stopped her. And she asked him, "Can you help me blocks to get to the hospital?" And he said no. And then her daughter fainted at that moment when she saw he wasn't going to help. Up until then, her daughter was alive, her eyes were open, and then Carmen asked this officer, "Please do CPR." He said, "I don't know CPR. I don't do CPR," with a smirk on his face. And then Carmen tried frantically to get 3 blocks. A bystander jumped in the car and told her, "Go, go, go." And then this officer in a marked RMP tried to stop her and went after her, bleeping his siren to stop her, and impeded her way to the hospital. Just 3 blocks. She made it to the hospital. They took Briana in. A doctor was heard to say later that if he only had 5 more minutes, he could have saved this child's life. That officer impeded her way, refused to do CPR, didn't know CPR. How outrageous is that? Nobody believed it when it was because of the Briana Ojeda case and this tragic death that didn't have to happen, that the NYPD are never retrained and recertified when other police departments throughout the country are retrained in CPR and can help. What about in 9/11, when the officers were one of the first responders, yet did anyone know, did anyone even dream that they were not certified, not capable, not educated, not able to do simple CPR and first aid? It is because of Michael Ojeda standing next to me, the father, and his perseverance that he has caused demonstrations along with his wife and his family, all of who are here today, including the grandparents, the grandmother, and the grandfather. They are fighting for your lives, for the lives of your children. Help us pass the law. Contact your assembly people. Contact your senators. Support us. This is the time. It took us 2 years to get here. Like Senator Adams said, we can't waste another moment that would cost somebody else's life. My client, Michael Ojeda, would like to say a few words. Thank you.
My daughter, Briana Ojeda, was an 11-year-old girl who passed away on August 27, 2010, due to the lack of training police officers received in the state of New York. Briana was suffering from an asthma attack as her mother rushed to the hospital when a police officer pulled her over for a traffic violation. When her mother explained the situation, the officers replied he did not know CPR, he does not do CPR. As a father who has lost a daughter because of the lack of training, and New York State first responder receives, I am here today, we are here today to ask that state legislation, the Assembly, the Senate, and our Governor Andrew Cuomo to support the bill A1554, the Briana Ojeda law, to make sure that first responders such as NYPD in the state of New York are trained in CPR and are properly equipped with these life-saving skills, which could have prevented my little girl Briana's tragic death. We cannot let another family suffer a tragedy such as this, nor let other children die that can be prevented. If we have mandatory CPR training for the first responders, this law will promote quick response from them. I would like to thank everyone for being here supporting us. I would like to thank Assemblyman Felix Ortiz for introducing this life-saving legislation, and Eric Adams, Senator Montgomery, and all others who support this legislation. Let us not let Briana's death be in vain. Let's make this legislation reality into law. Let us do the right thing to protect all New Yorkers.
Thank you. And now Carmen Ojeda will just say a few words.
Just want to thank everybody for coming and supporting us, and we can make this change together. All we have to do is speak up and do something about this. There's no need for them to deny us CPR, which is a simple procedure that is taught to them in the academy, and they can continue yearly teaching them this so they can never deny another mother like me. So you mothers and grandmothers can never be in this place where I am today. Make a change. Do something. Just change this law. Make it a law. Make it a reality, please.
Thank you. Of New York State.
Good afternoon. My name is Damon K. Jones. I'm the New York representative of Blacks in Law Enforcement of America. I'd like to thank Assemblyman Ortiz, Senator Eric Adams, and the Ojeda family for allowing us to come here and support them on this legislation. As a national organization of law enforcement professionals, we are outraged that one of the largest police forces in the world is not trained in CPR and first aid. How can you call yourself a law enforcement professional and you are not properly trained? And Commissioner Kelly and Mayor Bloomberg are not having any oversight of their training. After 9/11, every aspect of training of police officers was looked over. But how can you not look at the most simplest piece of training? The thing that calls you a first responder is CPR and first aid. So this bill will call accountability to Mayor Bloomberg and Commissioner Kelly. This bill will make sure that the citizens and the taxpayers of New York City know that their police officers, when they call 911, know that they have an officer that will come and will be able to respond to their situation if they're in need of CPR and first aid. The New York City Department of Corrections is trained in CPR and first aid. So we must ask Commissioner Kelly and Mayor Bluebird, rapists, pedophiles, murderers, killer gangbangs, they have police, they have correctional officers that are able to respond to them, but the law-abiding citizens and taxpayers of New York City, they cannot expect their police officers to respond and give them first aid and CPR. This is an outrage. This is an outrage, and they must be held accountable. But if they won't do it, then we need to pass legislation. I'm calling on all, this should be bipartisan. Republicans, all Democrats should stand up in line and ready to support this bill and put it on the governor's desk so the largest police force in the world can be properly trained. And we can once again be proud after 9/11. Right now, this is a black eye even on the victims of 9/11 because they were supposed to look over everything. And as a law enforcement professional, we are outraged. And we also bring support from our National Executive Director, Ronald Hampton from Washington, D.C., and he sends his support and love. And whatever he can do down there, he will help. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Now we will entertain any questions that you might have.
My understanding is that the NYPD does have some training in this, but it's not updated. Can you just clarify that for us?
Well, we have a former police officer here, so who can clarify that better than me?
Yes, you're right. Thank you, Senator. What happened, you get the primary training upon leaving the police academy, but what this bill will do is to ensure that one, you receive repeated training, and two, when the procedures change, that the police officers are updated on those changes, like they are updated periodically on laws that are changed. We want to do the same with CPR. You know, being the first respondent doesn't mean you come and respond in an arrogant fashion. It means you come and respond and save their life. And so by having that updated training, you'll be able to do just that.
So in some cases, officers feel as though their training is lapsed or they're not comfortable performing it? Is that the problem?
I'm sorry.
The training has always lapsed.
Yeah.
After the academy.
Yeah, after the police academy, the first training, I received training in 1984 when I was a police officer. I was never given training again. 21 years later, everything changes, and if the person who is spent 4, 5 years, 10 years, or in my case 22 years, and didn't receive repeated training, that is inadequate training. And any good training comes with practice, rehearsal, and repeated actions to show that you understand the craft you're doing. We currently retrain for the discharge of a firearm, so we need to do the same for the saving of a life through CPR.
May I add a comment?
And the ironic part of this is that you have police officers being training on how to shoot more efficiently, but not how to save life more effectively. So this is what the issue here is, and we will want that to change. We want that to be a law, and we want to make sure that CPR will be in their book.
Yes, sir. The Dr. Meltzer will answer that question.
Another issue concerning retraining in CPR is that studies have shown that those who are trained quickly forget the details of how to perform CPR, even doctors and nurses, so that frequent retraining on an annual or a biannual basis is necessary for the first responder to know what to do when they come upon a situation. So if they aren't retrained, then it's literally the same as if they were never trained at all.
Any other question? Well, in conclusion, again, my sympathy to the Ojeda family. Thank you for coming here. To my colleague in the Senate, Senator Adam, thank you very much. And we hope that we will be able to get this bill done in our House. The bill is in the Rules Committee. Hopefully we will report that accordingly. And again, I will repeat myself, the bill is very, very simple. The bill is about saving life. It's about giving those who are protecting us to protect us better by having this little token of appreciation and training on their back. And they will be able also to save their own family. By saving us, they're saving their own family. Thank you very much.